You're welcome. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your time.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome too.
Okay. I'm sorry, this is my first time interviewing, so you don't mind me reading it out from my phone.
No, no, it's cool. It's cool.
Okay. All right. So, can you briefly introduce yourself and share your journey into the tech and data space in the US?
My name is Nas. As you all know, I'm based in the United States, Atlanta, Georgia, and
Okay.
I've been in the IT tech industry for I think close to 20, maybe, yeah, about 15 plus years. I would say,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, about 15 plus years. And now, how did I get into the tech industry? I always tell people this. I personally, I am not a college graduate. I didn't graduate college. I went to school. I didn't finish. But being that my personality in general, I have this very strong problem-solving personality. I like to solve
Mm.
problems. I like to know stuff. I like to learn. Um, it was around the time where I was having some struggles in my life.
Okay.
And during those times, I needed a push to become better. My professor told me that, he thinks I'm an intelligent person and he thinks that, I'm capable of getting some job in the tech space. And he gave me tips on what to do and what to learn. I started doing research, and that's how I got into the tech space. I did some research, applied for jobs, lots of jobs. I had over 300 applications I put out
Wow.
there.
That's a lot.
And out of 300, I have over 100 interviews, mostly rejection interviews.
Wow.
Um, for every interview. Now, what type of jobs was I looking for? Specifically, I was looking for software testing jobs.
Okay.
Because one, I don't have no experience. Um, I didn't finish school, so I
Okay.
wasn't confident. So after doing my research, I was able to see that okay, this is a space that I think that even though I don't have experience in, I feel comfortable
Okay.
in talking on the topics. Yes, the interview was still challenging, regardless of how I felt. The interview was still challenging, but I did some research about software testing, which I'm actually surprised now that I realize a lot of people don't even know about software testing. And all you do is basically testing software. There's no big company that is doing well that doesn't have software testers. And
Okay.
what a software tester does is basically testing a software before it goes out to production. If it's a website, if it's an Android app, is a like for example, even banks in Nigeria, for example, those there's no banks. Banks don't just have their front-facing website or apps that we use. They also have internal applications that they use to do different things. And all these applications need a tester to make sure that it doesn't get hacked, it's working as expected, it meets requirement, there's no delay because they can be working with buggy, especially when you're doing financial related activities, you can't afford a bug that will get your money missing. No matter
Yeah.
how good a developer is, since I've been working as a tester, there's no application I tested that I don't find a bug in
Hmm.
my entire career. There's always something. So no matter how good a developer is, they can make a perfectly working app. The app might be working perfectly when they code it, they tested it. When they push it to the testing team, we, from a different perspective, we find problems.
Hmm.
So that's where software testing comes into play. So I was able to read about software testing. I realized that to understand software, I just have to know, be able to find defects. My job is to find bugs, find something that's out of place. If you're supposed to log in into an app, if I'm testing a login, I need to test by putting in an invalid username and password to see if it works, clicking login without typing anything at all and see if it's let me log in, putting a username without password, putting a password without username, um, trying different combinations to see if I will be able to, that I can break that application or do something that something off is going to happen. Um,
Oh.
So
So
that kind of gave me. Mhm.
are you saying that software testing does not involve coding?
No. Now,
Okay.
software testing does not involve coding, but you if somebody wants to go into software testing now, okay,
Mm-hmm.
there's a role called manual software tester or software tester, and then there's automation software tester. As a manual software tester, depending on the company you are working for, you might not need coding at all.
Oh, okay.
Now, some companies, the most coding a software tester might need might be SQL, and that's
Okay.
because you are maybe testing a front-end application that saves data into a database. You want to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that when somebody creates an account, let's say I go on Facebook, I create my account. If I'm testing that application after creating the account, I want to go into database to make sure that my details get saved correctly.
Okay. Okay.
So, so as a software tester, you need to know SQL. So those,
Oh, okay.
yeah, you need to know SQL. And depending on your experience and the company, you might need to know some other tech skills. But that's how I started. I started with that. And every interview, remember I said I had over 100 interview. Every
Mm-hmm.
interview that I went through, I was gaining experience as well because they asked me questions. I start by saying my name is XYZ. I lie on my resume about my skills. They ask me questions. Sometimes they
Okay.
ask me questions about my skills that I put on my resume, or they ask me questions based on the job description. And that's
Mm.
where I face challenges. But it can be discouraging when you get rejected over and over. But I wasn't that discouraged because I didn't at the time, like I said, I was in a hard place. I have to make it. I have to get this job. So I was determined. So if they ask me, so for example, they ask me questions about SQL. Can you tell us about joins? Left join, right joins. Tell me what is left join, what is right join. And I struggle to answer these questions. After the interview, I go research it and I'm prepared for it for my next interview. Now I've learned about left join and right join. So they ask me these questions every interview that I fail. I learn about what they ask me that I don't know. I research it and I try to be better in my next interview and the next interview. And I had so much interview. I used to have paper on the wall of what I'm going to say, but I did so much interview that I don't even need the paper anymore. Everything is all crammed in my head. Um, but finally, I got my first job. It was at a insurance company. I think um, it's an insurance company, and my duties there was just testing applications, testing their internal use application. It's a web application. But later on, it involves some database, loading data into the database to process some of the things they do. And the more I started working with the database type of testing, my skills with
Mm-hmm.
SQL and database and data start to improve. Um,
Oh. So it wasn't like started with data or data
no,
whatever.
I didn't start with data.
Okay.
As a software tester, a lot of my job involved working with data, and it
Mhm.
involves me. For example, at the company, we receive something called an infos file. Infos file is basically a CSV file with lots of um, we call it liabilities, but basically it's basically
Okay.
contracts from different clients. So every time someone sign up for insurance from different offices all over the United States, their information gets sent to the main headquarters, and they come in front of this file. This file is now then translated into money, into value that the company will now invest.
Okay.
It's kind of
Okay.
translated into money that the company will invest. We get this data, and I have to load it into the system. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so now I've started gaining skills on how to load flat files like CSV files into database. I'm learning how to do
Mm-hmm.
this. Now we have mock data. As a tester, I'm working with a mock data, not the original data, but we have to work with mock data
Okay.
before the production. We actually load production data because we can have error in production data. So I start working with mock data, loading into the system, testing it, making sure I'm seeing the correct value in every stage of the system. And
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I started doing repetitive tasks. I started doing repetitive tasks. I started researching how I would grow in the company. Because one thing I've understood about working in the industry in American culture is that even the company itself, they don't want you to be in one place. They want you to grow.
Mm,
Now they can't force you,
mm,
but they like people who want to grow, who want to develop themselves. So we have almost
mm.
every company I've worked for, they always have a meeting where they talk about your developmental growth goals. And
Wow.
during those opportunity, I used the opportunity to want to go into automation. That's software testing
Oh,
automation. Basically, software testing automation is you basically automating what, instead of doing the manual testing. For example, if I was to test Facebook, um,
wow.
uploading photos on Facebook, for example, to test that, I have to write my test cases. Is what I'm going. I have to write out. I'm going to test it, which is my first step is go to Facebook.com, enter my username, enter my password, log in, then click on the upload photo section, upload photo, then verify that photo is successfully updated. Then I'll put the result as successfully updated or uploaded.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
every time there's an update to the system,
Mm-hmm.
I have to go back and test everything I've tested 3 months ago again to make
Oh,
sure that the update did not break something that we've
and
done, something previously,
oh,
'cause- so as you can see, that can be very tedious, going back to test everything. And then when we have a new change again, I have to go back and test everything, including the last update. And then, I have So this is where automation comes into play. So now, after doing a manual test, we write an automation code in Python or Selenium that would
okay.
automatically go to where we just click one button or put on a schedule. It automatically go to Facebook.com, log in, and upload the photo, verify that the photo is uploaded successfully. If the photo
Oh,
doesn't
wow.
upload, it will say fail. Failed. It will try to validate that the photo was uploaded. If it's not there, it will fail. So eventually, at the end of the automation script, it will show pass, fail, pass, fail, pass, fail, what failed and what passed. Um,
Oh,
so
okay.
that is
Okay.
where I started looking into automation. And to go into automation, I need to learn how to code. Then I started teaching
Oh,
myself Python.
oh,
I researched different. I tried Java. I tried different ones when I was more confident with Python. It was the easiest, I
yeah.
think. So I went
Python
with
is like
Python.
a lot easier.
And I went with Python and I started working on that. And I started automating stuff for the company. At first, there was some pushback; they were not interested. But we have various meetings, especially when you work with a team. I don't know if you're familiar with Agile. In a
Yeah.
company that use Agile, they have something called retrospective meetings.
Mhm.
In some of these meetings, you can talk about what is working, what is not working, what can be improved. In some of these
Mm,
meetings, I was able to bring up my ideas, and
mhm.
when opportunity arise, I was able to demo some of the things that I've automated, and they were impressed by it.
Wow. Wow.
And so,
That's nice.
working in this company gave me opportunity to learn, to improve myself, to grow. And when I got to a limit, I realized that why did I leave the company? Maybe because they weren't paying me as an automation engineer. Because I realized that an automation tester makes more money, and they still were paying me as a manual. So I decided to go to another
Move on.
company to move on.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Oh,
and
oh,
um, then I ended up working with another company that does AI related activity, some machine learning kind of stuff. Um, I didn't stay long there, but that also gave me some more experience to coding. And
okay.
finally, after that, I got with my current job, which is a telecommunication company called T-Mobile. Yeah, at T-Mobile,
Okay.
I joined as a software test engineer. So a software test
Okay.
engineer is different from a software tester or automation tester. You're
Mhm.
more of everything. Basically, they want you to be someone who is able to, when it comes to testing, you're able to test. When it comes to automation, you know, it's not about doing a specific automation because a automation engineer, you work for a company and all you do is automate a particular website or a particular tool that for them, and
Mhm.
that's all you do. As a test engineer, You're more like an all-rounder kind of guy, which means if they want to automate a small task in database related, you're there. You know, if even if you don't have the skill, they want someone who is able to research and say, "Oh, we can do it this way." Solve testing problems, do manual testing, come up with testing strategies, and have all this knowledge. So I started there at T-Mobile, and from there they decided to delete the role at T-Mobile because most of my testing activity is related to ETL, related,
Okay.
big data, a lot of testing with data, transformation, and all that stuff. So they decided to move me to become an associate data engineer. Now, as a
Okay.
data engineer, because most of my activities involve data, I started growing in data as well. And then I started messing more with data. I get more familiar with data tools like Teradata, uh, Teradata Informatica, which is more of a
Mm-hmm.
data transformation tool. Um, I also got familiar with DevOps tools. Um, so I got familiarity with various tools and even cloud platforms, and I start to grow in that direction. Now, for me to grow in this direction, like I said, not everybody that was some people that were software test engineer as when at T-Mobile, some of them are not with the company anymore because not
Oh.
everybody has the drive to keep learning. Some people don't like
Mm,
change. So my advice to people is that if you're coming into tech, don't just say, I want to go learn front end, and then you got a job at a company and you're thinking, all I'm going to be doing is come to work, I'll build a website, and I'll go home. You have to be willing to continue to learn, to continue to grow if you want to last with the company. I think that people need to want to continue to grow because technology keeps changing, and you have to be willing and ready to change with technology. Companies these days, they like people that is going to say, I think we should do this. It will help our company. They don't want someone that says, we don't need to do that. I think the way we are doing it is fine. Even
mm,
though we are seeing on the news that everybody is moving to implementing integrating AI into their systems, and you are saying,
mm,
oh, we shouldn't. They don't want that. You want to be someone who is willing to help the company advance and move up, and they want someone that grows. So some people don't want to do that. Some people are very comfortable where they are. So
mm,
that's also when someone is going into tech, you have to be willing to move out of your comfort zone and be willing to learn, ask questions, develop yourself. So basically that is how I kind of got into the data space in general.
okay. Okay, okay. Thank you for that. So I'll move to my second question. So if you're listening on this live and you have any question, you can there'll be a question section where you get to ask your question. You can drop them in the comments. I'm going to take note of them. Or you can just hold on till I'm done with the question so you get to ask your own questions. Okay, so my second question here is okay, I think you already answered the second question, which says, what inspired you to pursue a career in data and how did you land your first job in the US? I think you answered that already, so I'm going to move to the next one. So the next question says, what does a typical day or week look like for you working in the data space?
A typical day or week for me in the data space. I would say it basically you should be ready to do repetitive work. It might not be exactly
Okay.
repetitive. Um, the task the task is repetitive, but what you'll be doing is not going to be. Which means, if on Monday you run into an issue with you always run into data issues. That's you will always have. Monday you might spend an hour trying to figure out an issue why a column is showing a wrong data or some tool is getting rejected or you're getting some error message. You might spend hours
Mhm.
troubleshooting it, and you might have the same issue on Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday it
Wow.
might be something different entirely, which means it might be so. It's all so one thing is you're ready to troubleshoot, you know, ready to do research, willing to do research, willing to spend time analyzing data and be calm. You don't want to rush. So a lot of times I start my day by making sure before I start work, and any day I always make sure I clear everything I have to do, which means I take care of my dog, I take my shower because I work from home. I get my coffee. I make sure when I'm sitting down from my computer, there will be no more distraction for that moment because I don't want to make a mistake. Because data is something that is very delicate. Um,
Yeah.
is one number if you're working for a company that deals with data specifically like financial, one number can make the company lose millions. Um,
Mm.
for example, in the past, when I was working for the insurance company, we had an issue where two additional zeros is added to. They wanted two additional zeros to be added to some monetary value, but they
Mm-hmm.
wanted it to be like decimal. They wanted the decimal .00, like the coins
Okay.
or the
Okay.
cents. But what the developer did, I don't know how they did it, but instead they're adding two extra zeros. So hundred
Oh my.
dollars is showing $10,000.
Oh my God.
So they're adding two extra zeros. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a big issue. It was a good thing that it was caught right before deployment to production during UAT testing. Um, Otherwise, that would have caused a whole lot of issue. So as you can see, something so minor is very important. And so when it comes to analyzing data, you want to be ready to analyze, look over the requirements carefully, make sure you review the design document or specification documents. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I work on various platforms like Snowflake, Azure, and I collaborate with various teams. So sometimes
Okay.
I have to go back to reach out if I see anything that I have some question, I have doubt. I always
Okay.
advise people, feel free, always ask questions. It's better to ask a million questions than to mess up. It's better for them to
Mm.
think of me as someone that he asks too much questions than that guy that caused the company to lose $1 million. You know,
Okay.
I'd rather be the guy that bother you than the guy that everybody likes. Because when the
Mm-hmm.
company fucks up, there's gonna be rumors. Everybody, who did it, who did it, who did it, and you're
Yeah.
definitely losing your job if you cost the company that much money. So
Mm.
so on my daily activity, I there's no day I don't collaborate with people. I constantly collaborate with teams. I always tell people when new people join the team, I said, you already joined the team. You're not losing your job. Nobody cares about what you know or what you don't know anymore at this point. You've already joined the team. So if you need any help, feel free to ask. Nobody's judging you on what you know or what you don't know. You're not here at this point. The interview is the only time you're trying to impress somebody. Once you get the
Mm-hmm.
job, you're not impressing. Everybody just wants to make sure you don't fuck up. Because trust me, any kind of fuck up a lot of times costs the company money. And so not only you will be affected, sometimes the managers get affected because they start questioning the manager. Why didn't you catch this person when they were getting the job? Why didn't you know they're not
Oh,
competent? So the
oh,
managers sometimes lose their job for employing someone that's not competent because now they start questioning the
wow.
competency of the manager for not knowing that this person is not good enough. So
Wow.
at the moment you get the job, you want to be asked questions. Doesn't matter how silly the question is. It's better to ask. Your team members, I like to help because if I don't help, if that person fuck up, guess what? They will grab me to go do the job. So they will end up dragging me to go help that person. So people are always, at least from my experience over the years, people are always willing to help. The only time people get irritated is if you're asking the same question over and over, where I tell you 2 plus 2 is 4. You come back tomorrow and you're like, what is 2 plus 2 again? Then people
Mm.
get irritated. And I have the same problem, but what do I do? I make sure if somebody's helping me and there's a video call, I make sure I record it. And if it's an audio call, I make sure I do audio recording on my phone. I take if
Okay.
I can, or take screenshots if it's just something they're sharing, because that way I don't
Mm-hmm.
have to go back and ask the same question again. Because sometimes people share too much information and it's difficult to assimilate everything all at once. And I try to avoid going back to ask the same question. So I take notes. I do screen record. I sometimes put my phone in audio record to record the audio, because there are some meetings that you're not allowed to record because of maybe confidential
Oh,
data or information
yeah.
being shared. So I put my phone on audio and I record and I go back and listen to the audio if I ever need help. At least before going back to ask for help, I listen to make sure it was never my question was never answered in that meeting. Um, One thing to also expect is, sometimes you might have to work weekends, sometimes you might have to work overtime. So, from my experience, it's not like you work for 9 to 5 where you can just work and just log off. Um, Sometimes your tasks are easy. So, sometimes I have easy week where I finish my task for the week by Wednesday. And sometimes I work all through the weekend because troubleshooting, you cannot really predict how easy or to troubleshoot something, because sometimes you might think the data issue is from what you are doing, and the data issue might be from the data. Maybe the data you receive was bad data to begin with. So sometimes you might spend hours troubleshooting, sometimes the whole day troubleshooting an issue. So those are things that I tend to face. One thing to also expect is, you have to be good at communication. Not everybody is perfect at communication, but it's something that you have to have a mindset that you are willing to improve and get better at. Improve your
Okay.
communication skills. Nobody is good. When I mean communication skills, does not mean that you have to speak good English and good grammar, because there are lots of Indians that work in tech space. They don't speak. They might
Yeah,
not have the best
that's
grammar.
true.
So grammar is not what I meant by communication. It means that you're willing to ask the correct questions. Ask questions. When you
Mm-hmm.
see an issue, you want to communicate the issue. If you have observation, think solutions, speak up. Okay. People know if you're a foreigner, people know you're a foreigner. They're not expecting you to be perfect. They will still
Mm.
understand you. If I say data no good, they know what you meant is data is bad. So
Okay.
I see 2 instead of 7. They understand you. So communicate, communicate, communicate. You'll be working with a lot of business users. When it comes to data, most data jobs always involve some kind of business or stakeholder involved. Some end users at some point, you will join meetings with some end users where they will
Mm-hmm.
communicate what they want. What
Okay.
they want might not be directly referenced to you. You might not be the one providing what they want, but you're part of the team. Always, pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
You might not understand everything they're talking about because, like I said, it might be something above you, more advanced, or you might be new to the team. Regardless, pay attention and try to, um, what's the word? Take out things that you can relate to. You know,
Okay.
just listen until you hear something regarding your department and try to see if you understand that part. And after, like I said, communication. After the meeting, talk to your other team members. Can you explain what they meant by this? Or sometimes you'll be surprised. You might just join a team and they will put you as the lead or to represent the team in a meeting. What do I do
Wow.
in those situations? This is something that I learned from experience. Before the meeting, once they put the meeting on my calendar, I I start asking questions. Who is the SME, subject matter expert in this topic? If they say, "Oh, this person is working for a different team now, but he knows more on this project," I reach out to that person and say, "I have a meeting with the business team on this social project. I was told that you're an expert in this area, and I would like you to join the meeting, or if you join the meeting, so you can help me ask the correct questions in this meeting, because I don't know much about this area. Or can you give me a list, if possible, if you think it's not that important, or there's it's the project is not that important. If you can you write out like questions I could ask in meeting?
Oh.
Just I could ask business in the meeting. And a lot of times when they schedule a meeting, they might give you a brief summary of what the meeting is about, so you can show it to the person. So it's always good to ask for help. Bring someone to the meeting. In the meeting, I'm not ashamed to let people know I invited Mike to join this meeting because he has more knowledge. I will be taking charge of the project. I just needed his assistance since he has more knowledge, so he's joining the meeting to assist me. And they understand, and sometimes they like that. They like to see initiative, action for help. Sometimes they like to see those kind of character in people. It shows leadership. It shows some characteristics that they are looking for in the company. So so you tend to engage with business team to solve problems. They'll reach out to you when they have data problems. Oh, this person is working with the data team. Can you reach out to him? And you'll be looking like, I don't understand this, but feel free to work with that person that reach out to you like, I don't understand what you're asking me to do. Can you get a video call and you show me exactly what it is? So communication is very, very important. And that's just
Okay.
part of every day I have meetings. I have close to 4 or 5 meetings per day.
Wow. Wow.
And each
That's
meeting
that's nice.
minimum is an hour.
You said each meeting minimum is what?
an hour long.
Oh, so if you have 4 to 5 meetings per day, that means like half of the day you are in a meeting.
Yes. Half of the day I'm
Is
in a meeting. Huh?
okay. Is that particular to your job role or is general?
Sometimes particular to my job role.
Oh.
Mostly particular to my job role. So a lot of times you usually not just on one project. As a
Mm-hmm.
data engineer, you know, they it's difficult to give you to keep you on just this one task. Meaning that I'm on a project to analyze data. Let's say Coca-Cola data. Let's say I work for like a company like a Walmart, a big department store,
Mm-hmm.
and when they hire me, I start with analyzing sales, Coca-Cola sales, and money and customers with Coca-Cola. And that's what I'm working on. They can't
Mm-hmm.
keep you doing that forever. At some point, they
Yeah.
will not need that data anymore. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times, you'll be working on multiple projects. So you might be working
Oh.
on Coca-Cola. Before you know it, they will tell you, oh, the next quarter we'll be working on Pepsi related data. And Pepsi
Okay.
is project might be completely different. The kind of information they need and what that is going to be about might be completely different from what you're doing on Coca-Cola. And sometimes you might start Pepsi expecting that Coca-Cola is going to end, but they might decide to extend the Coca-Cola project. So now you're working on two projects simultaneously. Now the deliverables for both might not be the same, which means Pepsi might not need to deliver until next year, or
Okay.
Coca-Cola might want weekly updates on that project. So the
Okay.
deliverables have so all the different meetings you're having is project related. So you might have a 9 o'clock meeting with Coca-Cola team, and then a 12 o'clock meeting with the Pepsi team, then a 2 o'clock meeting with the project management team where they want to discuss about our project and assignment to make sure that you have more time or you have enough time to handle both project or how much you've completed if you need help. They have all those meetings. So
Oh.
most meetings are related. Some meetings are to discuss roadblocks. Some meetings you might not be involved, meaning that, for example, the Coca-Cola project, you are
Mm-hmm.
doing the data engineering part or analysis part, but there's other parts to the project. So they will still add you to the meetings, even though they don't need your input in the meeting, but you are part of the team, so you are still added to the meeting. So
Okay.
and everything they say in the meeting might not be related to you or anything at all, but you're just joining just because you are there. Um,
Oh,
because you never know, they
okay.
might have something. You know, in 10 meetings, maybe they might only ask you a question one time,
Okay. Okay.
or
But you still
yeah,
have to be there
you still have to be there
time
just
you're
in
there.
case, because you never know. You never know what. So sometimes I join, but the meeting is going on and I'm doing my job. I'm still working, so it's not really affecting my job. Majority of the time, my daily task can be done within 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours. If I
Oh.
sit on the computer straight 3 hours, I can complete my task for the day.
Wow.
So remember when I
Okay.
think I once mentioned that I do multiple jobs? That's why I was able
Oh,
to have the flexibility of doing multiple jobs because even in most all my entire career, when I think about it, majority of my daily tasks can be done within 3 to 4 hours if I sit straight in front of the
wow.
computer.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So I would guess that's because you're a professional.
I think yeah, you gain more experience. You gain more
Mm-hmm.
experience as you go. For example, being a data engineer, for example, there's a lot of my tasks that get automated. Where my daily task right now, sometimes it takes between 4 to 5 hours when I first started doing the task. Now I've cut the time to about an hour. Why? Because I was able to automate some of this tasks, repetitive tasks. Now, my automation experience is able to help me in that area. I was able to write Python script to help me help me encrypt files, a bunch of files that I needed to do something to, help me extract data from a database, and I have everything already automated. It just does everything real fast.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you for that. So I'll go to the next question now. So my next question says, what skills? I know you already mentioned communication as one key skill you need to have. So what skills or tools? So let's talk about tools now. Do you think are most critical for succeeding in data related roles in the US?
So I would say, okay, when it comes to technical skills, I would say proficiency in SQL.
Okay.
SQL as number one. Python is
o-
also really in demand. And with those two, you are definitely guaranteed to get a job in data. Now, there's other tools like Snowflake, cloud platforms,
Okay.
SSIS, Azure Data Factory, which is also a cloud platform. These are, and currently the Azure Data Factory um, has been also integrated with AI. So the current version is working very well. It's really awesome. I've only get to mess with it a little bit. So a lot of these cloud data management tools
Mm-hmm.
are in demand. When it comes to data visualization, having experience with Tableau, Power BI is
Okay.
very, very important. If you go for an
Okay.
interview, you don't have to know both. If you go for an interview, even though the job might requirement might be asking for Tableau, if you tell them you know Power BI, you are likely to still get the job because
Oh,
people who use those tools know that they are very similar and they know that it's not really of it. Once you know one, you can really use the other one. So knowing either
okay.
Tableau or Power BI is very important. Problem solving skills is also important. Analytical thinking and troubleshooting are essential. You know, being able to think analytically, willing to troubleshoot, which means sometimes you might not be in a position to troubleshoot. It's not your job to fix the. A lot of times the issue might be a developer problem,
Okay.
but it's always good to troubleshoot before saying, "Hey, there's a problem. I don't know what it is." You know,
Mm,
it's better to say, I ran into an issue. I checked the log, knowing where to find the log, because there's always a log somewhere, you know,
mm,
asking questions, where do I find the log? Checking the log, trying to see what the log says about the problem, what kind of error
okay.
message it is, so troubleshooting skills is important. That way, when you send an email, you're able to give more details or even screenshot of the error or a snippet of the log.
Okay.
It helps the entire team as a whole. So troubleshooting skills and analytical thinking is important. Soft skills which I
Okay.
mentioned, which is like communication is one. Teamwork are crucial for translating technical work into business insight. You know, so that is very very important. Adaptability, being open to learning new tools.
Okay.
Every now and then you might not be companies sometimes have in-house tools. There are
Mm-hmm.
situations where a company, because of what they do, they cannot
Mm-hmm.
use an external tool, so they build their own tool. So you have to be someone who's always ready to learn new tools. Your team, companies will always bring in new tools. Then you might start working with, for example, let's say you start using Tableau. The company might wake up
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow and say, we don't think. Tableau is secure because it's owned by a Russian company. We're gonna be using a Power BI.
Okay.
So they don't. So you have to be willing to say, okay, yes, I'll download Power BI and I'll do some research and learn what I need to do to get the job done. You know, that will always happen.
Oh,
So companies sometimes they change it too. They might say we don't want to use, for example, my current job we use Teradata to manage our
okay.
data, and they move from
Mm,
Teradata to the cloud platform, which is Snowflake. They said, Teradata is more expensive and it takes more resource, which the cloud
mhm.
platform is cheaper and better, and they listed all the advantages of that. So that is so, like I mentioned, data visualization experience, technical skills, SQL, Python, um, tools like Snowflake, SSIS, Azure Data Factory, problem solving skills, analytical thinking, and troubleshooting.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. So, I hope the people listening, I hope you're taking notes of some of the things he's mentioning, and I can see your questions. After I'm done with my question, I have a list of 10 questions. I'm going to the fifth one now. So once I'm done with my questions, I'm going to pick up your questions and then we'll answer it. Okay. So my next question is, can you share any challenges you faced working in the US and how you overcame them?
Most of the challenges that I faced, I would say, is confidence.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I'm not believing in myself,
Hmm.
wanting a thought, another validation from somebody else. Meaning that when I started, as I'm afraid to take on new tasks. I'm afraid to
Okay.
take on new tasks. I was very comfortable at some point. I know something, but I'm afraid to take it up because of fear of failure. So I don't pick up the task when they're in meetings and they say, "Oh yeah, we have this new project. Who has the availability to take on this task?" I think I can take it on, but I keep quiet. I want somebody else to take it. And then when somebody else
Okay.
take it, then I go and shadow them and like, hey, what are you working on? Can you let me see? Then I want some information about it. I want to learn. Now I'm regretting that why didn't I take it on? You know. So those are my challenges. Um, like for example, even though I mentioned earlier that I went into automation and all these
Mm-hmm.
things, it wasn't that
Mm-hmm.
easy for me to bring it up to the team. Okay, I
Oh.
had to go to other developers. Like, look at my code. Look at my code. Is it good enough? Do you think I'm good enough to be automation? And they say, yes, that is good. We should show it to the team. But I would not go show it to the team. I procrastinated because I'm like, I wasn't still confident. Because even though I have the skill to take the job, I wasn't still confident enough to. Because now I'm afraid that, well, what if they say, yes, you can start doing it? Now I feel like, oh my God, I will fuck up. Like, what if, what if I mess up? So I wasn't confident enough. So those were my
Mm-hmm.
challenges. But when I overcame those challenges, I realized that the sky is the limit. And I think overcoming those challenges was because of experience. Um,
No.
I think experience. That's what I would give it. I think experience was what helped me overcome those challenges because right now there's no interview. I've not there's certain jobs I haven't done before, but you can put it in front of me like, nice, come interview for XYZ, and I will still sit there confident, like I won't feel any anxiety at all. So I think experience
Okay.
really helps a lot. So I always tell people continue to practice, continue to don't just focus on one thing. When you get good at one thing, start asking yourself, what else can I get good at? You know,
Mm.
my best thing that I do is I look up job descriptions. So yes, I'm a data engineer at one company. I'm doing what they use at that company because regardless of what they put in a job description, they might write like 100 tools that they want you to know. When you get a job in that company, you might only be using Excel and SQL. That might be the only thing you're using. And what
Oh.
does that mean? That means that you are not growing. You're not learning anything new. So sometimes what do? I look up job description from another company. I see what tools they
Mm-hmm.
are using, and I start practicing and learning on my own. And sometimes I think, what tools can I add to my current job to make my job easier? I start
Okay.
practicing on my own, and when I was good enough, I show it to my boss. I'm like, I think if we do this, it will help the team. Um,
Okay. All right, all right. Thank you very much for that. And I hope everyone on the live is learning as much as I am. So, how would you describe the work culture in US tech companies, especially in terms of collaboration, innovation, and work-life balance?
the work culture emphasizes mostly on collaboration and innovation. Team members are encouraged to share ideas and contribute solutions. They uh, even if you're a you're a junior software engineer or a junior whatever role you are, when you are in
Mm-hmm.
meetings, you don't see nobody treats you like you're a junior. They treat you like you're equal. Yes, you know who your boss is, but your boss would not address you like, "Hey, I'm your boss, so keep quiet." You know,
Mm,
they all treat you like
okay.
you're equal. So everybody is open to communicate and share their ideas. That is
Wow.
mostly pushed a lot. So since all my career, I've never seen it being anywhere I feel like I can't talk, or anybody is felt like they are being restricted to share their opinion. They actually have meetings. I think I mentioned retrospective meetings.
Mm-hmm.
We have these meetings where people are able to talk about what went well in the sprint, what can be improved, and all these things. People can come and say, I think there's an issue with this team. I struggle with getting deliverables from the developer, or I struggle with getting information from the business analyst. The
Okay.
requirement wasn't clear. This is what we can do
Mm-hmm.
to improve. Can we get, you know, people are able to share their opinion how to improve, and nobody is really. And also, there's a focus on results rather than hours. People care more about results, which helps the work-life balance. Which means um, it's not about, oh, why are you not at work at 9 o'clock, or why are you not at work at 7 o'clock. It's more of, did you do the job? Is the job completed? People want you to join the meeting and say the job is done. You know, rather than so. And also another thing is, for example, um, I was on PTO. While I was on PTO, I have a team member take over my job for me. When I came back, the team member messed up. Now, I was
Oh,
telling somebody, and they were like, "Why don't you send an email and saying this person messed it up?" That's the thing. The companies don't care about who messed it up or why is it messed up. In any meeting they have about that issue, the only thing they are focused on is solution. How do we fix it? What do we need to do to get this fixed? How fast can we fix it? Solutions. You know, Nobody really care about pointing fingers. Now they'll care about pointing fingers if it's something that costs the company millions. If it costs the company money, yes, yes, you have to point fingers at that point. And hope you have the opportunity to point finger before somebody point a finger at you. Because if somebody points a finger at you first, you might not get a chance to point back. You might just get fired. but but on the norm, nobody really care about pointing fingers. Everybody care about solving problems,
oh,
on getting something resolved. So there's a focus on result rather than rigid hours, which helps the work-life balance. And but there's a flexibility that often comes with expectation, accountability, and self-management, which means they trust you. You know, they trust you. They don't. Nobody's trying to babysit anybody. Nobody's trying to
oh,
see. No, they are trusting you that you will do the job.
okay.
And there's always a time to deliver. They might say this is a 2 week sprint. You have to deliver in 2 weeks. They are trusting you. Nobody's gonna be coming like, how much work have you done? You know.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
it does it happen where it comes with somebody who will be now be watching your back every 2 minutes, but a lot of times it's partly because of the individual already shown that you are not responsible. When you start showing characteristics of always late and always, you know, getting people disappointed, you're late on deliverables, then people will be concerned. So, but on the
Oh,
norm, you are independent. you are trusted to get the job done.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you for that. So I'll move on to my next question. What advice would you give someone, would you give to someone aspiring to work in tech in the US, especially those transitioning from other industries or countries?
I would say that you focus on tools that are on demand. Okay, so for example, right now we are hearing a lot of AI. You know, we're hearing a lot of Python. We're hearing a lot of Rust. There are some different tools that we're hearing a lot of recently. Think of those tools, and depending on the area, if you're in the data aspect, think of those tools and how you can integrate those tools. How are those tools used in your current field? And
Hmm.
start creating a plan on how creating a plan to how to integrate that into your learning routine, what you're working on. Networking, attending like meetups, online communities, connecting with professionals on LinkedIn. During my job search, even though I never got a job through this method, LinkedIn, networking, I say hello to people. I look for professionals in my area. I look for companies in my area on LinkedIn. I message people on there. I join them. I message them. I say stuff like, "Oh, would you like to meet?" Well, because I already know what time they're going to their lunch break. When the company go for their lunch break, most people tend to go to restaurants and coffee places around the company. So, and I know I live in the area, so I look up those companies. I go to those lunch areas to have lunch around the same time when they're having lunch.
Wow, wow.
I sit there having my lunch. Sometimes I'm drinking tea or coffee or juice or something. I'm listening to figure out who might be working in, who might be an engineer. Because a lot of times when they come on their break, sometimes they talk about work. I
Okay,
eavesdrop on what they're talking about. I figured, oh, this one looks like it's a developer. The next day, I make sure I'm sitting by their table. I join their conversation. Sometimes they
okay.
don't know that I don't. Sometimes they don't know that I don't work at their company
Oh,
because they start seeing you around them around the same. They don't. That's how you network. Sometimes I chit chat with them on LinkedIn. I follow some of those people that I meet in those restaurants. I follow them on LinkedIn and I send them chats on LinkedIn. Oh, you going to lunch? What are you having for lunch? I try to be friends with them and stuff like that.
oh,
So,
oh,
um, so those are good ways. Eventually, I let them know I don't work here. I don't work. I used to work for this company. I'm currently actually looking for a job. Is there a job at this company? Oh yeah, come join our team. You'll go. I'll tell my manager, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, don't worry. We'll tell my manager or someone to see if there's, you know." So uh, that doesn't always work. That I never got a job through that method, but I learned that from someone, and that's why I tried it as well.
okay,
So I'm
okay.
guessing it worked for some people. It could have. I made friends. There's some of the people that are still my friends till now. So networking certification is good. Even though no job I've ever worked at have ever asked me for proof of certification, but
Mm,
it's still good to have the certification because the process of you taking the certification test, sometimes it puts you through some kind of challenges, some things that you might think you'll be surprised that you don't know, and you might get asked, and it will force you to read about those things, and now you learn those things. It help you to
okay.
also improve your knowledge. Especially um, maybe with interview questions, because you never know. Some interviews are very technical. So sometimes the process of taking the certification, certifications in like places like cloud computing or data analysis certification might help. But get a certification in the area that you are going to. Don't get unnecessary certification. Don't try to be getting a front end
Okay.
related certification when you know you are focused on back end or data related. So, persistency, be ready to adapt and preserve through challenges. It's not going to be easy. Okay. Like I mentioned, I had over 300 job applications. I have over
Mm,
100 interviews,
wow.
you know. So, and every time you get rejected, you'll feel bad, especially if you have a
Ah,
horrible interview. Every time you do an interview and you
mm-hmm.
know you mess up in that interview, you end the interview feeling bad. But don't let that hold you back from going into the next interview and the next interview. You look at it more of every interview is an opportunity for you to learn. learn something.
Mm,
So, be ready to push through challenges. Um, also, you have to also think of cultural adaptation. Um,
okay.
try to, those are things that you get from networking. Try to get information from people on how things are done or
Mm-hmm.
overseas. So you need to know how the team functions. Questions you shouldn't ask. For example, if somebody say my name is, if you meet me in an interview and you say, hey,
Mm-hmm.
good morning, I say, hey, I'm Sandra. Don't say, huh? You Sandra? No,
Okay.
you know, that's how the Western world is. A man can be Sandra. You cannot question people's sexuality. You cannot
Oh.
question people's gender. You know,
Okay.
if people say I'm referred to as her or she, even though it's supposed to be a e, don't question them. Don't make gesture. Don't make an expression of disgust. Don't talk.
Oh.
Don't bring up religion. People don't. You can lose your job for that. These are things
Wow.
that is very strict that people you can actually get fired for. Is discrimination. They consider this discrimination, a form of discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
They don't question people's religion, gender, sexuality. These are things you cannot question. So if
Wow.
you want to laugh about it, hold your laugh in. When you leave the meeting, go laugh. Oh, I can't believe that guy. You know, but
Okay.
these are things that you need to understand that you cannot question people's. If somebody tell you they have, oh, I'm going through depression, don't sit at their desk and say, let me pray for you and start praying. That is not welcomed. They might not say anything at the moment. Before you know it, HR will be calling you because just
Wow.
because. So the culture here in America, for example, in Nigeria, if you're non-Muslim, you're Christian or you're
Mm-hmm.
traditional, but most people are Muslim or Christian. In the Western
Mm-hmm.
world, there's Muslims and there's people that they just don't. So don't assume that somebody is Christian. Just because they are not Muslim does not mean they are Christians. So some people just don't practice religion at all. So your prayer is not welcome. They don't
Oh.
believe at all. So your prayer is not welcome. They don't want you to preach your faith to them, especially at work. Now, if you're not at work, if you're at a bar, if you're at a restaurant, outside workplace, you can do whatever you want. But if you're in a workplace, your prayer is not welcome. You know, you don't. People have done this and lost their job. The people will, you'll start praying for them. They tell you there's so much depression. You're praying for spirit of depression to get out of them. They don't want. They don't want to hear that. So they might go report you and you lose your job. So those are things that people need to understand about, the culture. Part of the culture is also, like I mentioned earlier, they want people to grow. So there's always development. Almost every company, actually all the company I've worked for, which is over at least seven, they
Okay.
always have developmental goals every year. Where you talk with your manager and they'll talk about your developmental goal. What skills do you want to personally improve for yourself? And what skills do you want to improve how do you want to improve for the company as well? So you list out something that you want to do better or help the company to grow at, and what skills for yourself you want to grow at as well every year. So that is a common practice there. And some of this meeting these goals also help in determining your salary increase or bonus that you get.
Okay. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So I'll move on to my next question. I have two more questions to go. What has been your most rewarding project or achievement in the data space so far?
Um, for me, one of my most rewarding projects involved working with optimizing ETL workflow for
Oh,
like complex data pipeline, and this is at
mm-hmm.
T-Mobile. By identifying bottlenecks and implementing solutions.
Okay.
My goal is basically to I actually help in significantly reducing processing time and enhancing data accuracy.
Okay.
This project specifically actually helped reinforce my ability to deliver imperfect results.
Oh,
Basically,
okay.
you know, using my technical expertise to help in helping the company to solve lots of problems. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
the ETL work environment, it was something new for me, and it's also something fun. Um, it's something new and something fun that it has also helped me in my own. I have a couple of personal projects that I've been working
Okay.
on related to ETL.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much for that. So lastly, what trends or future opportunities in the data space or tech generally should aspiring professionals be aware of? I know you already mentioned AI and stuff, but I just want you to like elaborate more on that.
I would say here, like I said, AI, machine learning, basically like integrating AI into data workflow.
Okay.
AI there's so many ways that AI can help in analyzing data. Um, so you can integrate AI into data workflow by helping to either clean data ahead of time, helping to find certain things. So you can, it could be a small script, depending on how much of AI skills you have. It could be a small script added to your workflow, or different ways. I don't have much knowledge in AI yet, but I have this visualization of how it can be very helpful. And I've heard talks about implementing AI at my current job. Cloud technologies, I mentioned like platforms like AWS, Azure, Snowflakes are becoming like the industry standard. If you hear anybody talking about data now, you either hear AWS, Azure, Snowflake. Those three cloud platforms, you know, are like big companies are using now. Almost every big companies are using those three platforms. Um, Data governance, ensuring data privacy and compliance is increasingly, you know, every company now we hear stuff about data leaks and data
Okay.
privacy, what kind of data. So understanding what type of data you should have access to. So even if you're
Mm-hmm.
working in a company and they send you some data, you should be able to tell, you'll be able to look at that data and tell that this kind of data you should have access to. Because sometimes people don't know. You should be able to let your boss know. I think um the social security number in this data, I shouldn't are supposed to be a clean version. I'm seeing these are not scrubbed social security number, or these are not scrubbed credit card numbers. I shouldn't be saying this. You should understand how data privacy and compliance work. Um,
Okay.
Automation, leveraging automation tools, to automate repetitive tasks. There's always going to be repetitive tasks in every areas of data.
Okay.
You can even automate with SQL itself. You can write SQL skills to help you do some things. Um,
Oh,
so,
okay.
so,
Okay.
and there's also growing demand for instant insights, data analytical stuff, skills, and
Mm-hmm.
being able to see insights and generate a graph or some kind of diagram to help people see and understand data better.
Okay.
So that is also growing a lot,
Mm-hmm.
especially we can even see in the news area, for example, weather. With the weather
Mm-hmm.
team are also using it. They're able to show graph of data fluctuation in weather and fluctuation in money,
Okay.
stocks, finances, all these things. They need analytical people in their team who is able to create this visualization for them and also real time analytics, be able to see the graph changes. Um,
Mhm. All right. Thank you very much for that. It's been an interesting, insightful section. So I'm just going to go through all the comments, all the questions we have in the comments before we um, end this live. So somebody asked, I think the person is asking, is automation the same as programming? I'm guessing that's what Kings asked. Should I read through all the questions or we should go one after the other?
and we can go one after the other if it's not a lot of questions.
Okay.
But
So
automation,
this
okay,
okay.
yes. The one automation is the same as programming, yes. To be able to write automation script, you have to know Python. But it's more of scripting, meaning that you don't have to have in-depth programming. You're not developing an application. You don't need to create a UI. It could be 10 lines of code. It could be 20 lines of code. It could be just 5 lines of code. You're just writing a small script to complete a task using either Python, Java, or whatever.
Okay, okay. Thank you for that. So the second question, sir, I'm guessing this person mean, did you become a data engineer through training or experience?
Um, Through training. I did not
Okay.
attend any kind of training course. I watched
Mm-hmm.
YouTube videos. I studied. I used my existing knowledge from what I have from school, and I studied and I watched YouTube videos.
Okay,
And I have the
okay.
guidance of my sister because she
Oh,
actually was working as a software tester at the time. So she also gave me a resume and gave me tips.
okay, okay, okay. So what you're basically trying to say is YouTube is like a platform where we can learn literally everything we need without having to like pay for courses or except you want certifications. Okay, so the next question, please can I have a template for entry level software testing roles?
Yes.
Okay.
Software template for software testing roles. Well, to be a software tester, I don't know if the person already has knowledge in it, but if they don't, there's a website called guru99.com. Guru, Guru99.com. They have everything you need to know about software testing. One. Also,
Okay.
they also have demo projects. They have a demo
Okay.
project on that website where they create
Mm-hmm.
where they do agile and waterfall project for you. They have a fake, they have a template bank website, Guru 99 Bank. They will create an app. You get an email. They'll do it like a sprint by sprint where you get a requirement. You have to test the app. They'll create a bank and tell you what you need to be. The bank should be able to allow you to deposit money and do all these things, and you have to test it. They will purposely put defects in the
Okay.
website. And the following, there will be an update on the website. They will kind of go through like a normal, what you would normally experience in a workplace, basically. So Guru
Okay.
99 is a good place to start. And to go into software testing, also, you can go into YouTube, look for software testing, but set a filter to give you stop to give you course videos that's longer than 1 hour or longer than 30 minutes. So because
Okay.
every now and then people take paid courses like Udemy courses or some paid courses, they record the
Mm-hmm.
entire courses and post it
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube. So if you look for courses that is longer than 1 hour, you will see a
Mm-hmm.
lot of videos that have the full detailed course. That may also be
Oh.
helpful.
Yes, we answered all of the questions. I don't know if we have anyone that has any question before we end this live session. You can drop it in the comment section. So, Mr. Nas, thank you very much for joining this live session. I appreciate your time and the insightful and informative section and everything that we have learned from you. Thank you for joining, and I think we don't have any questions for now, so we can call it a day.
And I really appreciate the time to bring me onto your platform. I've always appreciated a lot of your contents, um, giving information to help people, sharing information, guiding people to get into the tech space. So I've always appreciated your content, and I'm glad you gave me the opportunity to come onto your platform to share these details.
Thank you very much.